Hello.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Benjamin. I research and lecture with the Osun State University in Nigeria, and I will be presenting today on the role of coronavirus in biopathogenesis of neurodegenerative diseases. Since December 2019, we've heard about the pandemic, the COVID-19, which is caused by the novel coronavirus, which was discovered at the Wuhan province in China. So, and several diseases or pathologies have been attributable to this COVID-19. So my role as a neurobiologist is to project or speculate an hypothesis on the role the COVID-19 could have in the pathogenesis of neurodegenerative diseases. It is, however, imperative that we discuss the SARS-CoV-2 and how it inflicts its pathologies through the cytokine storm, and we'll discuss a little on the mitochondrial bioenergetics, the alpha-synuclein, cytosolic protein aggregation, which are basically indicted in several neurodegenerative diseases and mitochondrial homeostasis, and we'll discuss some other neurodegenerative diseases and the future of the COVID-19 survivors. The SARS-CoV-2, which is the novel coronavirus that has resulted in the COVID-19, has both direct and indirect effect on the central nervous system. And we have the direct effect by neuroinvasion. In a short while, I'll be discussing how the SARS-CoV-2 percolates through into the neurons. The neuroinvasion could involve the neuronal pathway, and the angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptors, which are the receptors that actually accept the receptor binding domain of the coronavirus, which makes it get into the cell. And we have other indirect pathway via causing hypoxia, hypertension, coagulopathy, and immune injury. And such resulted into some neurological disorder via cerebrovascular accidents, and such could lead to death. There are some recovery, and there could also be some delayed pandemic. That is, the survivors could also be prone to having some delayed pandemics, and several neurological complications have been reported, which involves anosmia, which has to do with inability to smell in the patients. We have encephalitis, inflammation, encephalopathy, seizures, and other neurological complications have been discovered in patients that have suffered from COVID-19. So it's very important that we have here the central nervous system. We could see the sagittal section through the brain. And what we have here, what we have here is the coronavirus, and the coronavirus has around it, we have the capsid, which have the receptor, which have the glycoproteins. And on this glycoprotein, we have the receptor binding domain. The receptor binding domain, to get into the neurons, need the angiotensin converting enzyme, which are present in several neurons, the neurons, the neuroglia, which the microglia, the astrocytes, which are the supporting cells of the neurons, and the oligodendrocytes that are responsible for myelination of neurons. So that means this coronavirus here, the receptor binding domain could bind to the angiotensin converting enzyme here. And when it binds to it, there's a form of endocytosis in which the coronavirus gets into the neurons, or the neuroglia as we have it. And what we have, this is the coronavirus here, and the membrane of the neurons. It binds to the angiotensin converting enzyme, and it gets into the cytosol, the cytoplasm of the neurons. It encodes itself and replicates itself severally. And there's this also lytic case where the coronavirus produces several proteins that break the cell membrane of the neurons, and after replication can get into the bloodstream. And it also have a way in which there's a kind of immunological response to the virus in order to get rid of the virus. And this immunological response involves production of cytokines, interleukins, and all that. And this could cause through the blood-brain barrier. We've heard about the brain having immunological privilege, but now we've discovered that there are also immunological reactions that happens in the brain. So what we have is a form of cytokine storm in which you have several cytokines, that is tissue necrotic factors, the interferon gamma, interleukin 1, interleukin 6, and all others. And this cytokine storm are, the main pathological basis of all the symptoms that we've discovered in coronavirus patients, involving lungs injury, the respiratory distress syndrome, and all others. And this cytokine storm and this immunological reaction can also happen in the brain, can cause the blood-brain barrier, where you have production of oxidative radicals resulting in oxidative stress, and also we also have crossing production of the matrix metalloproteases, which are actually indicted in several neurological disorders. It also has some physiological benefits. And what we have, like I said the other time, there are production of reactive oxygen species and reactive nitrogen species. And all these oxidative radicals find their way into the mitochondria, which is the powers of the cell. And what we have is a kind of energy imbalance in which the mitochondria it's affected. And this mitochondria, the bioenergetics, is actually responsible for normal functioning of the neurons. And by the time we have the compromise of its function, what we have is cell death and other neurodegeneration, which it's the main basis of all neurodegenerative disease, talking of Parkinson's disease, talking of Alzheimer's, talking of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and all that. So now we understand that mitochondrial homeostasis or mitochondrial bioenergetics is responsible for normal folding of alpha-synuclein. And by the time we have a compromise due to excessive production of oxidative radicals and interleukins that were result of invasion of the coronavirus, you have a sort of misfolding, and there's also reciprocal effect in which this misfolded alpha-synuclein binds to the mitochondria. And what we have is further damage to the mitochondria and an exacerbation of all this misfolding. And when we have several misfolding, your mitochondria that moves from the monomeric form to the polymeric form to the oligomeric form. And alpha-synuclein normally in the monomeric form has a way in which it helps the physiology of neurons. But by the time you have abnormal folding, which we have oligomeric form, it affects dopamine homeostasis, which is the main biological basis of Parkinson's disease. And when you have aggregates like that, it affects dopamine homeostasis, and dopamine homeostasis in the neurons further results in formation of oxidative radicals. And all these oxidative radicals have a way of damaging the neurons. So we should be very careful, with the patients that have survived the coronavirus. And as you can see here, you have the unfolded, the alpha-synuclein, when it misfolds and become oligomer, and such have been seen in Lewy body, and in also patients with Lewy body, with dementia, with Lewy body. And misfolding of alpha-synuclein actually affect the ubiquitin proteasomal system, which cause impairment of the ubiquitin proteasomal system, and such indicted in several neurodegenerative diseases because they produce oxidative and neutroceptive stress, which could damage the mitochondria and could also help increase the influx of calcium ion, which activate the N-methyl aspartate receptor, resulting into neural death. So that's what I have concerning the COVID-19 and the SARS-CoV-2 in the biopathogenesis of neurodegenerative disease. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, Benjamin, thank you very much. And this was also a very nice and timely overview about the problems that might come. So this brings us to the end, actually. The meeting is not over, it's just session 2. So I'd like to thank all the attendees from around the globe, of course, the speakers, and Jennifer really for taking the major work of organizing and making this possible, and being awake at that early hour. So with this, thank you very much. I'd like to say one more thing. If you look into the chat window, there's a link where it would be great if you give feedback. There's a survey about the meeting. So of course, we all hope that the next meeting will be face-to-face again next year. And with this, actually, I hope we see each other then, session 3, which will be the Molecular Cellular Cognition Society, so the one in the US, and they will start in about 5 hours from now on. Okay. Have a great day or night. Take care.